you have an insatiable craving for a sweet, sweet podcast where you can listen to discussion on everything from music, TV and games, to politics, space, sports, and so much more? Do you like off-the-wall conversations and the most amazing segments with just the right amount of crazy? Well, you're in luck. Welcome to the place where three cool cats from Canada throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. Now, without further ado, introducing your hosts, Jake Andrews, Joe D'Souza, and Jackson Playfair.
What's going on, Splat Nation? Joe, Jackson, episode 17. We're here. How's it going?
Very good. 17, baby.
It's a big number, boys.
Dude, I can't believe it. 17. We're flying.
I'm gonna be at
Feels
20
like number
soon.
one was just yesterday.
I know, eh? It's great.
Yeah, so we got a good show here. We've been pretty guest heavy, I guess, the last 3 to 4 weeks. Had a few. We're having quite a few more coming forward. But tonight is just the boys. And I got some interesting little space nuggets for you. You might want to TM that phrase, space nuggets. But
Space
other,
nuggets.
other juicy science stuff. And
Dude.
we'll just kind of deep dive into a few things that we otherwise haven't really had time to due to the lack of just us three. But the first thing I kind of wanted to get to is I was watching, well, this is how all good prompts start, is I was watching a YouTube video. This cool channel, I'm going to plug it. It's called What If. Check it out. I know Joe's big on some sciencey YouTube channels. Check out Vsauce as well.
Yeah, Vsauce.
But What If? So I don't know what I was doing where I think it just came on and the video was talking about like if an asteroid hit the Earth, and it's not that one I want to talk about, even though that's a compelling conversation maybe we can get to. But there was a video that came on after, and it was comparing the Big Bang Theory, which is what most people generally subscribe to as how the universe got created, and I don't know if we've already talked about this, but it was like the rubber band effect, but it's kind of like breathing. Like the universe has a set of lungs, so it'll start at the center point and go out in all directions, but it expands and contracts until it gets to like the outermost point, and then it comes rushing in like fucking hundreds of billions of kilometers an hour.
The big crunch.
Yeah, that's I think what they call it. But
Yeah,
they call it
big
like the
crunch.
bouncing universe theory too.
Dude,
Yeah, I haven't.
so we're starting off with space nuggets, which sounds like an amazing strain of weed. And then we got the big crunch, which absolutely 100% has to be a chocolate bar somewhere.
It's close.
Am I wrong?
Mr. Big and Crunch Bar.
If it's not, we should have a chocolate bar, guys.
There's
Big
another
Crunch
TM.
Space Nuggets.
Big crunch space nuggets.
Oh.
Dude. Wow. That's a for sure TM. Copyright that right now. Verbally, we're putting it out there. This is a
100%.
contract. No one can steal that.
Official chocolate of See What Sticks.
Dude, that's
Dude.
hilarious. But
So
going back to the actual big crunch, that's insane.
have you heard of that before? Because when I read it, the guy was kind of explaining to what you would see after the point where it reached like the outermost thing. It would be like planets. There would be no like actual orbits anymore. Planets would just be flying and breaking the light speed barrier as they came collapsing in towards what they call cosmic downtown. And it would just be fucking black holes colliding and shooting like cosmic rays everywhere and planets flying by each other. Yeah.
Oh my
It's
god,
insane.
Cosmic Downtown. That sounds like candy as well.
Dude, or a roller rink in downtown Detroit.
Ooh,
Cosmic downtown. Come get your roller rails on and rip around the roller rink. Dude, that is bananas. I need a visual of this. I need a YouTube special effects creation of something along these lines, because would you not go see like just a premiere of like 2 hours of planets just smashing into each other at the cosmic downtown?
I'd be
We
down
got a
with that.
link.
We got links?
Well, and here, I just want to throw this out there is that I've been reading a lot about podcasting and some literature by some very knowledgeable experts in the field. And apparently there's a thing called show notes that we're supposed to use. We don't do that because we're just flying by the seat of our pants here until we figure out that we need certain things. So apparently in the show notes is where we're supposed to include all the links for our guests. We'll do that at some point down the road. But
See,
I will include that.
That would make sense though, right? Like now.
Well, that's what we talked about, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure we've talked about that along the line somewhere, but this is a cool video. I'm not listening.
Yeah, so
to
watch
it, I'm
that
just
in your
watching
spare
it.
time. When you get the audio in, it'll kind of give you a better explanation than I could give you. But basically, that shit is insanity and bonkers, and it kind of gives a different outlook into.
Dude, now I got some juiciness. Have you heard of the Great Attractor?
I have not.
No, Joe, please tell us though.
So the Great Attractor is there. I watched another YouTube video prompted thing. And there's a group of galaxy clusters that we're a part of, and that's another like arm of this giant super cluster chunk of like almost like a big giant like string, or like not a string but like just like in a line, like they're all clustered together in a line kind of shape, and that thing's called Lanacrea, which I always thought was kind of like a pretty name. Like maybe I'll name like a bird or something if I read a bird, Lanacrea or something like that. Anyway, it's like it'll be your favorite pet as well, Jackson.
Wait, who
loves birds? I know you love birds.
Who gets to name birds though? Like actual birds? Like, do you think there's any undiscovered birds out there that Joe can name?
There's hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands of undiscovered birds?
Yes,
I don't know,
Amazon.
man.
The Amazon, dude, straight up.
I don't know. We need to fact check that, but I'll believe
That's
it
a
for
big
now.
number, bro.
I'll bite.
Yeah,
for
maybe thousands, hundreds or thousands. Anyway,
Okay.
So this Great Attractor, there's like a flow. Apparently, like from what like I've gathered in my YouTube investigations, is that there is a center point, or a point where maybe it's the cosmic downtown. I'm not sure. Maybe they're the same thing, but that's kind of what made me think of it. That all the superclusters and all the galaxies, even though we're all zipping around at hundreds of thousands of kilometers around the sun and then around the galaxy or whatever, everything is apparently moving towards this one direction in space that trips me out. And I thought it was really cool. So, like, what do you guys think about that?
I mean, dude, like, I don't know, dude. The universe is so insane. It makes no sense that any of it exists as it is. But to then try and think about the universe going in a direction is like it's so far out there to me that I can't wrap my mind around it. But by wrapping my mind around it, it just there has
Helps
to be
you wrap?
something more.
Yeah, like what could it be? Do you think it's like the toilet, or like the drain, the universe drain, or you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but
Could be the sinkhole into another universe.
Ooh, I like that theory. Or a gigantic black hole just sucking everything in.
Wow.
Who knows?
Also, I thought up of a interesting would you rather. That's like not really a would you rather, but just kind of like I would like to know what you guys think. I think it'd be fun to kind of explore. So there's the big crunch, yeah, which is the like everything it comes back and crunches all into the singularity again. There's another one that is the like the heat death. And the heat death of the universe is where everything just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding, expanding so far that everything gets so far apart, and inflation just keeps getting bigger and crazier until it just gets cold. Like it's the heat death. So there's nothing that everything just kind of freezes and like gets farther and farther apart, like lonelier and lonelier and scarier and crazier. So, what would you rather? Would you rather? Oh no, there's one more. There's a big rip. There's a third one. The big rip is where expansion goes faster and faster, and that everything gets so far apart that eventually inflation happens between our atoms. Because like inflation is only between major gaps in space. Like there's not inflation happening on Earth, but like between Earth and Mars, there's inflation from space time. So like that keeps getting crazier until everything inflates, and then you just like explode. So
like a balloon.
Like a balloon, like you pop. So would you rather explode? Would you rather freeze in lonely darkness, or would you rather get really close to everything and squeeze all together again? That's kind of loaded the way I said it.
What a roundabout way to get there, but I'm gonna let Jake take this one.
I might get crapped on for it, but I think the right answer is everything's coming together, because then I might be able to grab a boob on the way in or kick something in the face that I don't like.
Just grab an alien titty on your way to destruction. I like that. You're just like, by the grace of the universal gods, you're like, just let me die with an alien boob beside my face so I can at least know.
What if it's like one of those stupid boob-looking things on like the last Star Wars, though? The big like slot. Like, what if you went for a boob, but then another boob got in the way? You grab like a cow boob, or I don't know.
Well, my question to you would be, if it's the everything's coming together, does that mean our planet's going to come together with something else first, or is everything on our planet going to sink into each other?
The whole universe crunches back together. Like,
so if everything's getting pulled at the exact same speed, is stuff hitting each other though, or is everything flying at the same speed?
Oh, I think it just keeps hitting and getting closer and tighter, and then starts crushing down into like an infinitesimal small thing.
So like a bunch of humans on Earth wouldn't like collide into each other and sink into the center of the Earth before everything else.
No, there'd be like right? Jupiter, and we'd
just be bumping bodies with the planets, so no one would be alive by the time we got to the middle, anyways.
Yeah, I think
no space boobs.
Okay, so matter. Here I have a bonus question. I have a bonus question. I might change your answer. And there's a bonus question: is if you were chipped, Elon Musk style, and you could live forever, you would eventually end up at those like universe end times. So like what would you prefer then? Do you think if you were like an immortal machine, does that change you guys kind of?
Well, then it would just be like, what is the coolest thing to watch?
Yeah, and I think everyone blowing up would be pretty. Watching atoms separate, that's what you're saying, and then that's how you would blow up.
Yeah, that's the rip.
Yeah, that would be pretty gnarly. The other reality is this is gonna happen. I always think about this sometimes too. Is like if what we believe in science and everything, it says that this is somewhat like something is gonna happen eventually, right? Like that's the whole idea. Whether it's like the sun blows up and we all die, or something hits us and we all die, or the whole universe collapses upon itself and we all die. It's like it's insane to think that all of society and everything is just built on the whole belief that like, yeah, but it won't happen tomorrow. Like it's not gonna happen like right now, apparently. You know what I mean?
Yes, it won't.
Like that's what I mean. Like it could happen, but like I don't know.
How much weight do you put into like physics and math?
Yeah. How much do you believe?
Yeah, well, that's what some of my friends argue against, like math and science. Like, oh, it's just numbers, and like, how do they know for sure? And I'm like, nobody knows for sure, but the best guess is aided by like mathematical equations, and physics and the best theories.
That's so trippy about maths, because like, there's not like one math though. Like, there's maths. Right, and there's like math, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and integers, or whatever. But there's like all these different versions of like little rules that they're like in place, like little think of it if like to analogize it to like different sports. Like math would be sports, but then there's all these different leagues. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, They're all
And
established to do different things, though. Like they're not like that's why it's they're not playing the same. They're like I don't know. I guess it's the overarching thing is the math, but then they're all designed to do, like geometry or whatever is for like building and architecture. Where like I don't know, dude. I like was good at
I
math
think you're
in
pretty
like grade
close, yeah.
6. Dude, once like I was, my parents would always be like, "Oh, and Jackson's so good at math. Like he's so good. He doesn't need to ever study or do anything. He's so good at math." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm good at math when it's like 8 + 8, 16, boom. 4 + 4, 8. Get out of my face." When you're doing like speed timetables and stuff like that, remember those in school where you'd have like a minute to answer as many as you could?
I was good
No.
with that.
Yeah,
I started getting bad around like high school math when it's like
dude,
when
I
it
started
gets
getting
trigonometry
real
and
and
shit.
hard.
It was
then
yeah.
it's
It was like, dude, it was a grade 11 for me. Like I was great in math up until grade 11, and then I started being like, okay, this is starting to get intense. And then grade 12 hits, and that was like calculus. And
Yeah.
dude, like the first month was like, it was just okay. We're gonna have a review. So I remember my marks going like 4, 4, 3, 1, 1. R
Out of
R,
what?
R. Like so
Four, 4 and 3 out of what? Like what? Because if that's out of 100, dude, like or you got to give some
This
scale
fucking
there.
BC boy, he doesn't know that Ontario shit, eh?
Ontario's
so
a joke. As soon as you have a 13th grade, you guys immediately eliminate yourself from the conversation of actually.
It's called OAC, bud.
It's called. Come on, wrap this shit up in 12 and move on.
Well, 4
Sorry.
is an A. 4 is
Do you
A.
want?
3
Yeah.
is
Do you want to
B,
tell him or should I?
2, yeah. 2's a C. 1's a D. R is a fail.
Okay, so
Yeah. So instead of F, D,
I'm the idiot for not knowing that you guys don't just use A, B, C, D. Oh, okay, no, that makes sense, guys. I'm the idiot. Right. No, we'll just keep going.
Nobody
though.
said idiot, just uninformed.
yeah.
Classic Ontario. For people not from Canada, Ontario is. They think that like all of Canada is Ontario and everyone else just lives by Ontario law, and it's not true. Just because you guys are in the middle, don't mean shit. All right.
I don't think we want you to want to be us. We just want you to know that we kind of dictate procedure and the best way to do things.
We think we're
Ottawa,
better
yeah.
than you, and we know it.
I'm just kidding. Fuck. There's a lot of bad stuff about Ontario for sure. Not buck a beer. Go Dougie.
So math, calculus sucks. And so like no maths are like I find that's kind of interesting to think about that is that like there isn't like a universe like math is universal, but there's not like a universal math technique or math theory.
As long as they're not doing it like the idiots these days with the, what is it, compound math or whatever they're teaching kids. Have you seen that shit?
Compound math?
It's like, fuck. They're learning it in the States right now. It's like a total new way of doing math, and it just doesn't make any sense to me.
I feel like they change that shit every like 5 years, and it makes no sense. It's just creating a bunch of people who just don't agree with each other. Because like my parents used to just be like, "Yeah, we didn't even learn what you guys are learning in school," and I used to be like, "Yeah, right." And now I look back on it, and I'm like, "Oh shit, they actually probably didn't learn what we learned, like at all in school." You know?
Do you guys know what I'm talking about though? Like that new way of doing things?
No,
I don't know what compound math is.
I don't think it's compound math. I think I'm an idiot and just saying shit.
It sounds like math tricks, like ways to like count your toes or count your knuckles or something.
Dude, the only math trick I know is like the multiple of 9 trick. Do you guys know that?
Oh, that's a beauty. That's a good one.
So if you like hold your hands up open, and so you have like 10 fingers, and you go like 9 times, like say 3, go 9 times 3. So you count like your thumb 1, 2, 3, and then put the third one down, and it's like whatever's on your left. So it'd be 2, and then your right would be 7. So it's 27. You guys get what I'm saying, or is this just complete gibberish over a podcast?
No, I get you.
I feel you,
I just tried it and I was like, wow, it works.
So then go like 9 times 8, and you go like 72. Boom. So you're welcome.
I figured out what it is. It's called Common Core Math. Have you guys heard of this thing?
No, but I want to look it up because I love to hate things too.
Oh, you will hate it. And if they teach
Nice.
my kids this shit, I'll be homeschooling them math and just telling them don't do it that way. That's not the way to do it. So, for example, 38 times 24, in the way we learn math is you would do 38 and then 24 underneath it, and then you would do like 8 times 4, and you would carry the 1 and put the 2 down. You know what I'm saying?
I remember. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So now in Common Core, they take 38 and 24. They take the 30 and the 20, and they do it in like a table. So 30 times 20 is 600, and then 30 times 4 is 120, and then 20 times 8 is 160, and then 4 times 8 is 32. And then they add all those numbers together. It's like, why would you fucking do it that way? You're just doing more steps for no fucking reason. What was wrong with the old way?
Dude,
Yeah,
I'm
I
looking
see
at
what
this
you're saying.
online, and this shit is complete gibberish.
Yeah, and there's a lot of parents that are like, why would you, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Like,
Dude,
what
this
was wrong
is
with the old math?
This is so much harder.
Yeah, and we're like expecting our kids to like, I don't know, it's like
Dude.
reinventing the wheel for no fucking reason.
And this is like basic math. New math. Oh, it says it's because the textbook company wants to sell new textbooks.
Nasty, dude.
Yeah.
I wouldn't doubt it.
It's all about the Benjamins. That's it.
Dude.
So on the topic of cool space shit, because I don't want to talk about Common Core anymore. It makes me angry physically.
This makes my brain hurt, dude. I don't understand. Why are they... It does... Oh, I'm sorry. This is literally... Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
So I was bringing it up to Joe the other day about the concept of... And I'm going to ask Jackson if he's ever heard of it, because I know Joe has. But I'll expand upon it for both of you. Have you ever heard about the galactic zoo theory, Jackson?
No, but please explain.
Also known as the zoo hypothesis. So basically, it's that there is other intelligent life forms out there in the universe, and there's compelling reasons for why they haven't made contact with us. And one of them is the zoo hypothesis that says they're observing us from afar, and there is reasons why they haven't made contact. And a few popular theories come up that they're basically avoiding contact because of natural evolution and socio-cultural development. So they want us to like develop on our own and evolve without intervention from other forces and see how it goes. The other theory is that they have this sensible desire to minimize risk due to the lack of benefit for them. So why would they make contact when, all sorts of bad things could happen? We could like initiate war or can just hit the panic button and go ape at them. They probably have very minimal benefits to making contact. Now you could argue that. Or they're waiting for us to pass certain technological, political, or ethical standards. So, for example, in Star Trek in the 80s, the reason that the Prime Directive, which is basically the don't make contact with lesser life forms or like lesser technologically advanced life forms unless A, B, or C happens. And what triggered that in Star Trek was as soon as a race initiates warp drive technology, that's when you need to go make contact, because then they're traveling interstellar, which we're starting to scratch the surface of that. We're mighty far off from anything realistic, but
I like that.
And then the other thing is it's like the laboratory hypothesis. So it's not a zoo. They're not just observing us. They're not just keeping their distance, but it's an actual laboratory experiment where another race or another like life form is observing us in a controlled experiment like atmosphere, and like we were put on the planet. We didn't naturally evolve. Like they took life and put it on this perfect conditioned planet to watch it evolve.
So like Prometheus, like you guys saw Prometheus.
I did, yeah.
I actually haven't seen Prometheus, but I need to.
Okay, so we'll put a pin in that.
It's pretty boring, but
yeah, I personally love it. I think it's just I like it. But if you look at it from like this whole frame of like being planted. That's kind of, it's the first scene, so it's not spoiling anything, but that's kind of what it's about. Jax. Anyway, so what this was, remember Jake, I was saying that there was like a scale, or there's something that there's a YouTube video from that Kardashev YouTube channel that talked about it. I found what it was. It's called the Kardashev Scale. So have you heard of that? Kardashev Scale.
Not once.
Yeah,
Not
so this
ever.
is pretty cool. So in 1964, Kardashev defined 3 levels of civilizations based on the order of magnitude of power available to them. So there's 3 types that he came up with, and type 1 civilizations are planetary civilizations. So that's they can use and store all of the available energy on the planet. A type 2 civilization is called a stellar civilization and can use and control the energy at the scale of its planetary system or solar system. And then the third civilization would be a galactic civilization, which can control energy at the scale of its entire host galaxy. So the YouTube channel that I was mentioning, Kardashev, it's like a it's the one that I posted. That's like the weird warrior ants. It's a really cool animated YouTube channel, and they go pretty in depth on it and how like we're only a type 1 and we're like barely a type 1 civilization already from where we are right now and how far we've came as humans. We're barely a type 1. I don't even think we're a fully type 1 yet, because we're still like climate change and we still got bullshit going on. It's not perfectly efficient. So like, dude, there could be the whole zoo thing. They could be like a type 2 civilization or type 3 checking us out and like watching us, and but then it keeps going, and like who made them, or like are they just us but in the future, or what's going on?
Well,
Yeah.
and I gotta let Jackson jump in here with some opinion, but just some more context to it is that they're thinking with, even in our, I think it was galactic backyard, basically there's any number of planets that either resemble very closely or are pretty like our sun. And there's a lot of planets that could probably inhabit the Goldilocks zone in their orbit or in their solar system. And there's a lot of stars older than our sun. So what would be the precipice for not thinking that there's already some life form that evolved on a Goldilocks planet with an older star that's not our sun? And like there had to have been, if they're like a billion years ahead of us on that like timeline, you would have to think that they've already hit interstellar travel and probably could be observing us at this point.
Yeah, and that's why I like the theory that you brought up, which I didn't even know was like the Star Trek-y thing. But I like that idea that like there's almost a barrier of entry to like the community of the universe, and we just haven't like quite qualified for it yet.
Well, one of the things that sent chills down my spine when I thought about it is like the reason why we have so much strife and so much hardships going on Earth is because, you know, we haven't hit that realization that it's a guarantee that we're not the only person or a life form in the universe. If we ever confirmed that there was other life out there, immediately you have to start worrying about things much bigger than, you know, everyday actions in life, or, you know, the humans squabbling amongst each other. It's then it kind of teeters to the conversation of this malevolence versus benevolence thing. Are they here to cause us harm, or are they here to come in peace? And if they're here to cause us harm, what is our next move? What should we prioritize as the human race? Band together no matter what nation or state or whatever we're from, because there's a bigger fucking issue at hand. Now, we would like to think it's benevolence and that we can make contact with them, and there's a mutually beneficial kind of agreement that we can come to with another life form, where we can learn from each other and extend the peaceful hand. I think most people are worried about the former, and probably rightfully so. Panic would definitely set in, but I think there's a reason for our narrow-minded view of life, and we get too caught up on the bullshit in life. But if we ever confirm that there was aliens out there, I think human priorities would drastically shift, and probably for the better.
That's interesting because it makes me, as you were saying that, it was making me think of the one of the more recent Star Trek movies, how Spock, his whole planet, um they're like like kind of where I'm getting at is it seems like if we were to get to that level of like being, we're allowed to join the club, so to speak, then it feels like we would have to be pretty unified as a species. Like it doesn't make sense to me in that way now that I'm kind of like poking at it with a pitchfork and being like, wait a minute, I feel like we would need to be like collectively together to even be like, okay, how we're gonna deal, you know what I mean? Does that make sense
Yeah,
to you
I
guys?
mean, I think from like a conflict standpoint, I agree with that. But I think from a like everyone else standpoint, I don't think other planets, say there is an intergalactic collegion and we're just not invited yet. I don't think that intergalactic collegion all has their shit together. You know what I mean? Like I think they might have most of it or some of it together.
Well, I was thinking
But I
like
think
species individually within the Legion. Do you know what I mean?
yeah. No, and that's what I'm saying is like that's something I think we're currently going through figuring out is like the true human psyche, Like what I mean by that is when you look at the development of human life the past 100 years, just for the sake of argument, like 200 years to where we are today, there's been such gigantic like leaps and bounds, not only in like technology, but like the way of life, like the way that people used to go to war back in the day, not even talking like world wars, but going back to like the like revolutions and like even beyond those times, like people used to go to war and die for pretty much like anything, right? Like if you took land, you had to go to war. If you didn't believe in a religion, you went to war. If you just wanted to keep where you were living, you went to war. Where like today with human species and where we're at, it's so much harder to convince people to completely buy into that type of conflict. But then we're seeing other types of conflict in our life, which is like social conflict and like conflict in our own backyards, which is, in my opinion, uh, sped up by the way that we're able to like interact with each other and receive information and communicate and develop and grow in the age of technology that we are now. So I think we're developing through something right now, but there's a lot of learning that needs to happen with it. And I think it is happening of even like the splitting of beliefs and the splitting of understandings um, between groups of people that technology has like shown on a world like everyone's aware of what's going on in the world right now. That's never existed.
Yeah,
I think it's going to potentially help what you're saying and like bring people to come to something where we realize like, okay, we gotta, it's not going to be fixed in 5, 10, 20 years, but like over time we have to find a way to ask the hard questions and continually grow and develop to then, if it comes to that point, at least have our shit together a little bit more.
Yeah, 100%. Like that, you make an interesting point about the globalization going on with the internet and like social medias and everybody knowing what everything's going on. And it seems like it's sort of acting as a mediator for beliefs, and because we're starting to go like, well, that we've talked about stuff like this before in the past with different beliefs of some there's overlap on a lot of them. A lot of them have a lot of commonalities, and I think that there's like that sort of shaving of the fat that's kind of going on right now. But at the same time, I think that it's definitely like if there was a friggin' alien species just come crashing at our doorstep and just was like taking over all of our TVs and everything, then I think that we'd all be like, okay, well, it's us versus them now, so we might as well. I hope that never happens, of course. But I'm saying.
So here's the thing. I'm pretty high on. I watched The Social Dilemma recently, and if you guys haven't watched that, I'm going to talk about it later. But check it out. But Joe, it's already happened. AI has already taken over our computer screens and our TV screens, and they're coming after you, and they want to take your shit, and they don't want you to succeed.
No,
I'm just kidding. But seriously, it's funny because I think we're kind of seeing though. It's almost like a test before the test in that, in the split in our own species. Like what happens if an aliens show up and they're like, join us or be destroyed. And like 50% of humans are like, yeah, man, we should just join them. And the other 50% are like, no, fight for our freedom. then we're gonna be split again. You know.
Well, what if you go to fight them and your weapons do absolutely nothing against their technology? Like, I think half the world would just submit to the reign and say like mass panic is set in and there's no way to win. But then, then is there like, and I kind of agree that if there is this galactic society going on, that not all of them are going to be by the book and all cut and dry, clean kind of race. But then it comes, is there like galactic police? Is there like this United Nations of Galactic Federation? Is there like the Green Lanterns out there like keeping the peace?
Yeah,
in
the
universe?
Avengers. This is all real stuff that we're talking about here.
Yeah.
The Avengers are the police force, and Captain Marvel is the one who makes sure that like nothing gets too crazy and everything stays like pretty much, pretty tame.
Shout out to like Marvel though, because a lot of the stuff that we like, they've written so many comic books that already touch upon a lot of these things, which is really cool. I think that's obviously why they're so popular.
They're 10,000 years ahead of their time, bro.
That's crazy. I wanted to share with you guys a couple of things that I found was really cool about each of the civilizations, just for the audience, but also for you guys, just to blow your minds a little bit. So Type 1 civilizations is just going to go through methods on what they would generally use. So for Type 1s, which would be basically us, we would use things like antimatter, use energy from antimatter, fusion power, so stuff like the sun that we still haven't quite figured out, but like nuclear stuff, and then renewable energy. Those are basically the three big ones that a lot of like our species right now is trying to make a reality, right? Like like trying to figure out how to make antimatter and trying to get the renewable energy up to snaps and that sort of stuff. But here's where it gets kind of really trippy and a really so Type 2 civilizations, so they use this thing called a Dyson sphere or a Dyson swarm, and what that is, that mega structure, is that it's like a bunch of satellites, like solar powered satellites, and we're talking an astronomical amount of them, and they swarm around the star, and then they absorb the star basically, and then beam the energy back to us to use. So it's called a Dyson sphere.
Is this like a theory, or is this like a thing that people are trying to develop?
Both actually.
Because this is basically just like harvesting planets for our own energy, right?
Yeah, and stars, harvesting stars, mainly stars actually. And then the other one is a black hole. Do the same thing, but with a black hole.
Okay.
And then there's also star lifting, and it's a process where an advanced civilization could remove a substantial portion of a star's matter in a controlled manner. So they'll like take a chunk of the star away, or like, okay,
that sounds real safe.
Yeah,
we're going deep, and I love it.
So Type 3 civilizations, and they employ a lot of the same stuff as Type 2s, but they do it with supermassive black holes, white holes, and they capture gamma ray bursts, which are the most theoretically most powerful burst of energy that can happen, and somehow harness it. And then quasars, which are like really fast, crazy, huge black holes that are so like just getting to that point, like we can barely even control the climate or whatever. And
we can't even transport fucking oil without spilling it.
Yeah, we
think we can harvest stars.
We can't even desalinate the ocean and get water for everybody because it's too expensive. Like, come on.
But that $600 billion a year, that ain't too expensive.
Yeah, so it's pretty fascinating though to think about. Like, there's still a long ways for us to go.
Oh, for sure. We are literally, I think, scratching the surface of this new. We're really getting out of almost like primitive technology behavior and like scratching the surface of where we're gonna go. Not only like in space, but like where we are on Earth now. Yeah, I think that's the issue in some part. With information and disinformation, is like it can seem all doom and gloom sometimes, but in the same sentence, we're somewhere we've never been and we're continuing to move forward. But it is just a trip when you look at it as like the theoretical possibilities are truly endless.
Yes, and one more quick little thing that I thought was really tasty was PBS Space Time's another channel that I've mentioned before to you guys on YouTube, and they have an episode on this sort of stuff. They have a bunch of it, but they have one idea that I'm not sure who came up with the idea, but the idea goes that there's a chance that we're just the universe is still relatively young on like the galactic scale or whatever, the cosmos scale. It's still pretty young, so there's a chance that we're actually just truly at least in our galaxy, perhaps just the first ones to kind of get here. And there might be all those other planets and whatever, but we're still the oldest, or in our galaxy, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, that's another way to look at it, is what if we are the first? And then in that sense, that's so much lonelier.
Dude,
think about.
I know.
That's so much lonelier to be like, what if we're the oldest brother though? And like, it's going to be our job to show everyone out. So like, we're going to be like 50 years down the road, we're going to realize that there's other stuff going on. And then there's just going to be a nuclear explosion go off that we're going to like recognize. And we're going to fly like light years away to this whole nother galaxy where there's a planet having nuclear war on each other. We're going to have to be like, no, stop. We already did this. It doesn't work. Stop it. Stop it, you two.
Dude.
Like, nuclear power, though. We can destroy whole cities. And it's like, I know you can. We did it, and it wasn't a good idea. We fucking all regretted it. Come on.
Yeah.
There's an idea.
I like that idea. That could be happening with us too, with the galactic zoo stuff. Like, what if other civilizations did all that shit and they're coming and like watching over us and making sure we don't do any craziness,
Then they're dickheads. We already went down the rabbit hole. For fuck's sakes. I'm gonna lose my fucking bean here, boys.
Oh man!
Tonight, I'm literally going to Walmart to get new headphones.
I've never had like my
laugh
be like inside my brain.
Okay.
Dude, what a juicy fucking conversation, though, eh?
Yeah.
So juicy. We're back, baby.
This is going to be 3 separate audio tracks, so it's going to be a nightmare to edit.
No, it's not that bad, actually.
Well, when I come up with the different tracks to send you in the audio or the auto post production, like that shit is a nightmare.
Yeah.
Well, I was thinking we were talking about the planets and the stars and everything so far away and how crazy that can be. Well, let's talk about something a little more close to home, a little more right in your face. And I don't know if you guys have seen what's going on in California, but let me just send you a little video here.
Oh, you can friggin' smell what's going on, Ajax.
I know you guys can. Look at that video, Joe and Jackson, and just tell me how terrified you'd be if you've seen that. And let me read you a couple stats from this article I read. So terrible fires across over a dozen western states, and especially California, Oregon, and Washington, have easily overwhelmed fire crews, move rapidly across their respective regions with unprecedented speed, fueled by arid conditions and dry brush that has served as tinder and seen major expanses of forest land consumed by the fire. With over 100 major fires this week, at least 26 people have died so far, while hundreds of homes are confirmed to have been destroyed. 20 of the deaths are in California alone. A massive force of almost 28,000 firefighters and support personnel have been dispatched to the fires across the West, with evacuation orders impacting residents near 42 of the largest fires. Fires are now raging in Alaska, Arizona, Colorado, Idaho, Montana, Nevada, New Mexico, Texas, Utah, and Wyoming. The fires have submerged cities from Los Angeles to Seattle in choking smoke and reddened skies, while Portland and San Francisco are now facing the worst air quality in the entire world, with officials urging residents to remain indoors.
Man, Vancouver had the same thing. They had the worst air quality in the world, I think, on Saturday. It's nuts.
And then you're looking at the video I sent you, and it's a fucking tornado engulfed in fire. A fire-nado, guys. Like, what is going on in the world here?
Dude, we're talking about all this like, futuristic stuff. This might be it, boys. We might be staring down the pipe at doomsday. It's
Al
kind
Gore
of
tried to warn us.
This is legit kind of how it feels though. Like it kind of does feel out in Vancouver here. This is what I said to this morning. I was chatting with some friends about it, and I said, being from BC and like living up north and then spending time in the Okanagan, this time of the year, like we had a late summer, so we're still kind of in that like late August, early September. Normally we start to get a little bit of rain around this time and a little bit later into September, which usually takes care of a lot of it. But we had a later summer, so it kind of got pushed. So like these fires are something you usually get every year, but I've never heard or seen of or even ever like came close to having this much smoke in Vancouver. Like I've had it up in north, I've had it in the Okanagan a little bit, but this is like nothing I've ever seen before.
Well, like my dad was like, yo, check this out. Vancouver's got the worst air quality in the world. I was like, no, that's impossible. And then I saw the smoke and I was like, oh my, it's just for the day, right? Like, because I always rave about how amazing the air quality is in Vancouver. I get out there, as soon as I land, I was like, wow, the air, so fresh. So
Joe,
tasty.
you can't see the mountains.
That's crazy, dude.
There's some bridges you drive on, you can't really even see the water, man. And when you're on a bridge.
Well, figure out how bad it must be at the epicenter if it's like that, like miles and miles away from where it's actually happening.
It's insane. I mean, we're pretty close to Washington and Oregon. That's the thing. Like,
but imagine how bad it must be at ground zero if it's that bad for somewhere just affected because of how close it is to it.
And this all like I've heard this rumor. Then my brother sent me a video of like another one of these parties starting another forest fire, but the video is from 2017. But I heard that this biggest forest fire was started by a gender reveal firework.
I heard that too. Yeah.
A what?
A
gender reveal. Like when a baby is born and they like reveal the gender of the baby. You know, they have like it like explodes and it's either blue or pink and it's like what the baby is.
Okay, and that's what started it?
Apparently there was a couple in like California somewhere and they did fireworks for their gender reveal, and the fireworks like shot into the woods and started a fire, and that's what apparently started all these fires.
Oh my goodness. This is
dude, if that isn't the epitome,
it's a Twilight Zone.
That is the epitome of 2020 culture society destroying us. Like that's not a natural disaster. The forest fire is a natural disaster.
What did it like? Was there like? Do they have wildfires? So you didn't say it was kind of they do, but so like compounded on top of the already wildfires kind of thing? Or?
No. So the reason that they have wildfires every year at this time is because like summer dries everything out, right? So BC, Oregon, a lot of Washington, Northern California, all these places are very woody. Like even Northern Arizona, like there's tons of tree and debris and stuff that can burn. So essentially what happens every summer is like everyone knows this dry period comes and you just hope that there's no like lightning can light the forest fires or like human interventions. It's been cigarettes before, it's been power lines, it's been like arson starting fires. There's always been different reasons for how it gets started, and then during this time of the year it's very common for it to happen, but it needs a spark, right? So everyone kind of just like crosses their fingers and hopes it doesn't happen, and now this time apparently the spark was a gender reveal birthday party. So that is just a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, straight up.
Hashtag 2020.
Yeah, wow, what a year. It's got to go down in history. Like, it's going to, for the amount of crazy shit that's happened. Because, like, the whole year started off with Australia being on fire.
So here's the thing.
It's all come full circle.
Here's the thing. I keep hearing this, right? I keep hearing 2020, this year's nuts. It is, for sure. Like, this year has been absolutely crazy with everything that's happened. The thing that I say is, like, I don't think it's going to stop. Like, I don't think 2021 is going to turn the page and it's just going to be like, oh, okay, back to normal. Like, we're in this new era. Like, I think we're just in this new time. And that movie I mentioned, that Social Dilemma, kind of talks about how you just receive so much information, whether that's like real information of really crazy stuff going on, or disinformation of people who want you to think that there's crazy stuff going on all the time, and it gives the perception that like everything's nuts all the time. It's crazy.
It spins
for
a
sure
narrative.
is.
Yeah, it spins a
Spins
narrative.
a narrative. Exactly.
Well, people in the news, they do the ratings game. They're not going to report on the fucking puppy that was saved from the tree. They're going to report on the fires burning and
Well,
all
that's
this,
what's cool.
this hate speech bullshit.
Yeah, well, that's what people like, right? That's why we don't go to see movies to watch Happily Ever After from the start and just watch how happy their life is.
No, but I think
for sure.
I pulled it back like a couple episodes to like when I questioned the CBC lady that came into our classroom. Like, there's got to be publicly funded media that kind of reports on the other side of it, because if all you're seeing is misery and corruption and hate,
it's a lot.
it kind of taints your glasses.
Not only are you seeing it, but there's so much of it, and it's so much easier to consume. Like, you can go on your phone and go Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Reddit, Snapchat, Tumblr, whatever else you go on, and consume information and knowledge and disinformation and made up beliefs and made up theories and ideas and all these things. In my opinion, the biggest thing that's going on right now is just it's never been this accessible. It's so accessible, and that's why the question does end up needing to be asked of like, whose job is it to maintain the ethical, what's right and what's wrong, when it's so easy to go get information from a guy who decides to start a YouTube channel, and then his YouTube channel gets 5 million subscribers, and then whatever he says becomes news. Like, that's where the problem is now getting so much bigger, is what is news and what is
just information.
what sells. Yeah, what's information that's just not selling? Well, that's not what people are going to want to put on their page. It's not what people are going to want to put out under their brand, right?
They like, as a communication student in university, one of the big things that they try to get across to us throughout our 4 years in a bachelor's degree is the idea of media literacy. So how do I consume media? How do I interpret media that I see and unpack it to the point where you understand what the source is, what is and what isn't valid information, and just how to consume it and take a critical lens to it with the right approach. Now, I think when you're asking how to, like, the average people discern what is and isn't real, or like with so much information out there, it's hard to tell what is real. I guess it would be the thought of building media literacy in the average person, but is the answer that they have to take a 4-year degree in communications? It shouldn't be. It should be prevalent in the media to say, here's how to like figure that out. And it should be free courses on the internet or something on media literacy, and pushed by the government saying you really need this in today's information age.
For sure. And that's the whole argument of academia versus the general public, right? Because academia teaches you to think critically. It teaches you to think about perspectives and where something's coming from and who it's coming from and the legitimacy of that source, where for our parents, and going back further, our grandparents, just to really exemplify the point, that was the newspaper
or the library.
Or the library. And no questions were asked. There was no, oh, but what if so-and-so writing the news article is just writing it to get reads or to get this or to get that. That wasn't part of the argument, because I don't think the financial gain was as large for people to write the false or to not speak the truth, where now that's such, it's so watered down to the point where you're right, you do need a class to be able to understand how to receive news.
Well, and if you're talking about like academia is important, I don't disagree with you, but then what do you do for the poor people? What do you do for the disenfranchised? They deserve that information too, which I think one of you mentioned in a past episode, the importance of like publicly funded education or free university level courses that just anybody can take for free. And, whether that's in the community or online, if you have the means to do so, that should be a thing for sure.
Well,
but then
here's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So the other thing you were saying is like, back in the day with newspapers and stuff, it was less biased information. I would argue that they've taught us the opposite in my education, and they said the newspapers of yesteryear were very politically motivated because the owners of the newspapers had their slant, and the people
Yeah.
that bought ad space or like funded that newspaper
Oh.
were left or right leaning. So
For sure. I think what I was trying to say is that it wasn't questioned to the same extent it is now.
but it probably should have been, right? And like nobody
Yeah,
questioned
see,
where
that's
they
for
were getting the
sure.
source from. But in today's internet society, that's why it's awesome that we have all this information out there, because you can pick and choose where you get your information from. It's just, how do I interpret what I'm reading as valid, or like, I would say that it's not like it's not funded by like a think tank or like some biased source on either side of the coin, and that it is peer reviewed and like looked at by several different angles and sources and say like, yeah, this is solid information.
For sure. And that's where the question gets asked is then I don't believe that you can offer free courses. You can offer and put out there information all you want. People are going to choose whether they consume that or not, right? Like people are.
I would think it would be more technical information, like how to stuff should be publicly offered, like how to discern media, not a course on what media is right on either side of the political spectrum.
I know, and that's what I'm saying. Ethically, I think it comes down to those sources, like where people get information now, as in YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. Like,
yeah,
that's
a
their
lot of
responsibility.
A lot of how I was gonna say a lot of how tos on YouTube. It is a lot of, it's free. You can go, as long as you have an internet connection, you can go on YouTube and pretty much figure out how to do anything.
But that's the system of trial and error that I subscribe to. And fuck, I use YouTube to its fullest extent to kind of even do some things that have benefited us in our podcast. Like there's a figure it out sort of aspect to that. And if you have the wiggle room to kind of work through it, but there's more like, the authority on, okay, so some university is offering a full length course on this and they're offering it for free. There's a little more legitimacy to learning that than some dude on YouTube is showing you how to change the tire on your car or something. Not to say they're both not useful, but
I think the reason for that is you give validity to the major university, right? Like you give the belief of the fact that whatever it is that they're teaching you has value and has been thought about and studied and figured out to then deliver it to you, where that's where things like YouTube and Facebook don't. Like you don't have that necessarily trust of validity, but some people do. And I think this is different than going up and looking up how to change your car tire on YouTube versus watching somebody speaking about coronavirus or different movements or different political beliefs or different political candidates and speaking about them like they're fact. And then people thinking, okay, I got this video off of YouTube or I got this video off of my Facebook. It must be real. These must be facts. These must be true because Facebook wouldn't let it be on there.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the problem.
Well, what about like TED Talks?
No, I was just going to say that. Okay, so there's like this kind of tunneling, like this wormhole informational entry point. So like a TED Talks is a perfect entry point where, okay, they bring up this kind of diverse, complex topic. They break it down in like the best, most digestible, concise way possible in like the 10-15 minute time frame they usually operate under. And then that's an entry point for you to say, okay, that was a really good talk. I'm kind of buying what they're selling, but I need more. And then you kind of go down the wormhole. The important thing is that you learn where you can go to find more information. And I think if you're the average person and you're struggling, it's not
clear.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's not clear for the average person to figure out where to go to get that information, but from like a literate person who does know where to go, you can totally sympathize with the person who doesn't, because it's not like common knowledge to know where to go. Most people would think, okay, if Fox News is telling me something and everyone says it's bullshit, then the other side of the coin, CNN, must be right. No, the truth is they're both kind of full of shit because they both are catering to, who's paying the bills. which is kind of why, I had a conversation with, and I won't name the person, but one of my friends, let's say, the other day about Edward Snowden and Julian Assange, and they had never even heard of WikiLeaks. And I was like appalled by it because I said, that whole story and the NSA and WikiLeaks and them prosecuting Assange and Snowden recently being like basically exonerated, like that whole whistleblower fiasco just blows the doors open about, WikiLeaks is like a bastion of free information that has never been proven wrong on like any story that they've ran. They've independently fact checked things over and over and over again to come to the conclusion that whatever they reported on was truth, and the people that are trying to suppress it are the fucking ones doing the corruption. And they got famous for blowing the whistle on like war crimes that the states was like killing innocent civilians in, I think it was Iraq or Afghanistan. And they've ever since then been like the go-to source for independent information that has been peer reviewed and fact checked. And it's important to have those independent that don't have ad sponsors, and they're not paid for by anyone. They're just free sources of information that anyone who is like Edward Snowden and says, oh shit, I work for the NSA, they're doing some shady surveillance shit on the average person in the population. I need to tell somebody about this, but if I go to the government, they're going to prosecute me, or they're going to sweep it under the rug and it'll never see the light of day. Or I can go take this to WikiLeaks and they'll blow fucking doors open on it and share it with the entire world. So not only should everyone know what these independent sources of information are, but how important it is to have them and like defend them and not let the government roll over people like Assange.
That's really interesting because I just got a couple of points. I'll let you go, Jax. A few things came to mind. I just watched Interstellar with my dad, so kind of bring it back.
Great movie.
It's a good movie.
So good. We after seeing Tenet, which another shout out. Great movie, super confusing, but a spectacle. Anyway, one of the opening scenes, he's talking to his daughter, Matthew McConaughey's character is talking to his daughter, and he's talking about like that's science. Like you gather your information, and then you come up with your hypothesis, and then you present your conclusions. And that's and having what you were saying, Jake, about WikiLeaks being like fact checked and like peer reviewed, and like and then they draw their conclusions from having all this stuff checked over and over and over and over again. It sounds just like science, right? And that's what the scientific method is. So I think by connecting those two things, treating information and how we get information like an appropriate science, well, then that's how, anything that we've come to learn and have built with technology and all that sort of stuff, it's gone through that method, that scientific method, which is, I feel a lot of people, I don't know, maybe it goes over their heads. And that brings me to my other point, which was like getting information and like going down the wormhole or the rabbit hole, so to speak. You also have to have a desire for it. I'm not sure if a lot of people even have a desire to really care about knowing what's going on, or
the willful
wanting
ignorance factor.
Yeah, I think that's a thing.
For sure. And I think the important thing about science, and like you talked about, Joe, and just to exemplify the point, but it's constantly, the whole purpose of science is once you come to that hypothesis and you try and test it and then publish it, it's constantly trying to be debunked. Like it's people constantly trying to figure out a hole or an issue or why it's not real or why it doesn't work. And if it holds up the test of time, then it's believed to be good science and you move forward with it and it's effective. Where information is different, because information, I forget the exact like equation they taught us, and I took like an information managing like processing class, which is exactly like kind of what Jake talked about, where it's how do you take in information and turn it into knowledge, because information is endless. It's data. It's out there. You can collect it and put it in a bucket and hold on to it. Knowledge isn't something you can collect and put in a bucket and weigh. Knowledge is the ability to collect information and data, discern it between what's true, what's false, what should be trusted, what shouldn't be trusted, what should be believed, but also understood that nothing is 100% and nothing is is proven unless you have an ability to trace it backwards and to have other valid sources sort of give you the green light on it. So
Yeah, it's like fact infused with belief.
Yeah, and
well,
so
and there's the media has this innate ability to kind of like control the narrative throughout history of it doesn't even matter what the facts are, it's just what they tell you the truth is. And there's probably tons of instances throughout history where A happened, but B gets spun as the narrative, and everyone thinks B is what always happened and never question it. It's terrifying.
And there's no, yeah, exactly. And there's no time. Something happens, and like news companies and information, and even now you look at like where people get information online through different news or media sources, something happens, it's news within 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. If people are talking about things that go, it has to happen now. It has to be fast, it has to be quick. And you don't have time to fact check all this stuff before you put it out there. If it's a hot lead or it's a fresh thing, or if it's the new whatever, that's where information needs to be understood, that like they're just feeding you the most believable thoughts that they have right now. And those thoughts can change in an hour, in 2 hours. And that's where I think, like we've kind of touched on a little bit, you wish that there was more understanding of how to consume information and how to use information, and then how to build your own beliefs based off that information than I think we see today.
Well, I think it's on our discipline of communication studies and like media studies scholars to kind of, in this increasing information age, to imply just how important it is for people in a general sense to understand information and knowledge and kind of be able to consume it more appropriately and critically, because like this is like the no turning back point of, you know, technology and information is more prevalent than it ever has been to the nth degree, and it's never going back in the opposite direction. So people haven't needed to have that critical understanding of media literacy, but it's going to be ever more important going forward. And I think we were talking about it with the mandatory vaccine thing and how people don't trust their government. And my statement would be, yeah, they probably shouldn't, because there's been a history of the government when they make mistakes. It's not, yeah, we made a mistake. Here's what we did. Here's what we should have done. Here's what we'll do going forward. Please trust us. We'll prove you that we're trustworthy going forward. It's damage control mode. It's when we were caught in Afghanistan bombing innocent civilians, we gave a convenient excuse for it instead of saying that was wrong. We shouldn't do that. Let's never do that again. It's, conceal. And if the lid ever gets blown off on it, deny, point people's eyes in the other direction while we do it some more. And it's sickening in a certain way. And I cannot blame people for not trusting their government or not knowing what the hell to believe in today's society.
It's tough, man. It's a really, really tough field to navigate. Like there's one really cool analogy that I really liked in one of my philosophy classes, and my professor was describing how we can try and agree upon something, and how we can actually classify something as being like a fact or being knowledgeable, or something that we can classify as being knowledge. And it's so cool. He's like, information is like, information is like you're in a sea of abyss. You're just in a big giant dark room, and you have a flashlight. And if you're standing beside me, we're both in this, or you guys are in this room with me right now, and we all have flashlights, and I have a flashlight, and I point it at something, and I point it at this fact or this knowledgeable thing, and then you show up, and then you point your flashlight at the same spot, and we both look, and we both agree that that's what we see. And then Jake comes in and does the same thing, right? So then that's kind of how we can start to build upon trying to organize what we can consider knowledge or what we can consider fact, because that's what a lot of science is trying to do, right? It's a lot of like, how agreeable is what we're arguing, because if everybody agrees, then it's undisputed, right? Like,
Well, the peer-reviewed study is like the de facto, this is a fact because we put forth an experiment and a hypothesis that was proven right, and X, Y, and Z all looked at it after the fact and tried their damnedest to prove it wrong, and they couldn't. Therefore, it is confirmed as a fact until it's not, because God loves science, like Jackson said, is the I'm always trying to prove myself wrong thing, and I will continue to do so until the end of time. But I think there's this weird kind of crossroads where people are kind of thinking the best way that I can think of to prove something is fact is if I see it with my own eyes. Well, we can't be everywhere at all times to see everything, so we tend to say, well, if you caught it on video, then but then it comes to like that deep fake thing that Jackson was talking about. Like, they can doctor video, they can doctor photographs, so like, unless I see it for myself, and even then, do I trust my own eyes? Like,
that's a very interesting thing. One more thing that I find really interesting too is the idea of there's a certain term for it where okay. Give me a second just to try and think of it, but it's something like if it's non-testable, or if it's I'm screwing up the word. It's not coming completely to mind, but it's something like along the ideas if it's untestable, it's unverifiable or something like that. Basically untestable, then it's not really worth talking about in terms of like the scientific community. So like if it's something that is like a point, for instance, a lot of religious knowledge or spiritual knowledge, unverifiable, anyway, I'll make the point and then come back to the word after. But that's the idea: is if you can't test it with like a scientific method or something, or if you can't observe it, and it's some like woo abstract idea or something spiritual or religious like God or that sort of thing, then a lot of the scientific community or a lot of like the proof based knowledge can't kind of happen there. So it's an interesting thing how there seems to be like not a cap, but like an edge where anything more abstract or anything beyond that edge of science or observation, it goes into this like realm of and for me, it's always been philosophy. Like the best we can do is come up with logical fact, which is like logic is basically the same thing as math. It's actually got like a scientific method to it, and it's based on arguments and points, and math's basically that too. But I think that's where like kind of I feel like philosophy is going to kind of come back in the future, in future generations and stuff, because we're getting to a point where we can't really study a lot of the things that we're going into in terms of like science and cosmos shit, and you know what I mean. It's just outside that realm, which I think is really cool.
Philosophy is like this secondary kind of way of thinking that I would trust the logic and the mathematics and the physics of things, and then it's like cool to think about the philosophy of things from like a outside of the box kind of perspective. But I would kind of label that as something that's a little more out there, as far as if you're trying to like prove something, you wouldn't use philosophy to do it.
Well, you would use the logic, like you'd use logic though. And there's some things that I think you would only be able to prove through reason or through philosophy. I think something like God would be something like that. You could only
but that therefore you eliminate the absoluality of proof, like the that's definitely not the word.
The absolute, we get
truth of it by not being able to like if philosophy is your number one like way of testing it, then therefore you can
never actually prove anything.
That's that exactly. And I think that's where it's clear to me that you need both. To me, really, I think that like there's so much that is clear that it would make no sense for us to just like philosophize about how where the birds and the bees come from, because we could come up with all kinds of bullshit.
You never want to narrow anything into the black and white like 100% of the time. You need a dose of the gray, which the philosophy kind of provides that middle ground between right and wrong, and like just think about these other things, and that's a valuable skill for people to have, for sure.
Yeah, and I think we all do it already. Like, because I feel like, to me, like everybody has their own philosophy. Everybody's just the way they think, really. And that was something.
But philosophy to me relates very closely to opinion.
Well, see, that's the thing is though, like any good philosophy that you would study in school is again, it's somebody that's just the way they think, right? And that philosophy, that's their philosophy. That like existentialism, that's like a collective ideas of the way people think, and you're right, it's very opinionated, in some ways, but there's a lot of it that is like pure logic, which runs into all sorts of. That's a whole other episode of getting into all the different cool like
we should
philosophy
at some point.
Yeah, we got to dive into that at some point because Joe,
we'll just let Joe
in
take
that,
take the fucking
it's a
wheel
minor. Yeah, my major
yeah.
is a minor, but just have like thought experiments. Like, it'd be really cool. We'll touch on that later.
Yeah,
Boys, I don't know about you, but I was talking with Joe the other day, and I was telling him how I get like these science gasms where I see like a program or like read this fact in a book, and I'm just like, wow, that I fucking love science. So I was looking up the other day when I got into that What If channel about the expanding universe and all that, and it was the biggest volcanic eruptions, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis in the history of the Earth.
oh boy,
Does that shit sound awesome or what?
Yes.
Yeah,
Also real
nuts.
quick, I found the word. It's non-falsifiable. Really quick, just to clear that up. That's non-falsifiable. So if it's something that you can't falsify, which is the whole debunking constantly, if it's undebunkable, then it's kind of like, well, why even talk about it? So that's where I think philosophy comes in, and that pertains to God, because like you can't falsify the idea of God. You can just debunk it as much as you can, but you can't like completely deny it, which is another whole other episode too. But anyway, continue, Jake.
Yeah, there's some juicy nuggets I would love to dig into as far as religion and philosophy are concerned. But okay, so let's just take a starting point. We don't have to go through all 5 of them today because I love to like kind of say the facts and then kind of get your guys' reaction, because some of this shit is like, if you pictured it in your mind as it was happening to the people that were involved in it, I would shit my pants. Like I've been involved in like crazy thunderstorms that just like terrify you, and just looking at that footage of the fire NATO kind of brought me back to this. So you guys have all heard of Mount Vesuvius, which leveled Pompeii.
Right.
Entire city was buried in ash. There's a thing called a VEI, which is the Volcanic Explosivity Index. It goes from 1 to 10. I didn't know this was a thing until I researched this. So Mount Vesuvius, which happened in 79 AD, was a 5 on that scale. The plume height reached 15 kilometers in the air. Like I said, entire city of Pompeii buried in ash. Very popular story and culture. In comparison, Mount St. Helens, which happened in 1980 and is very popular in the media because it's like the most recent kind of North American one. Also a VEI of 5, also reached 15 kilometers in the air. Ash from the eruption traveled to 11 U.S. states and cost $2 billion in damage. But those are piss ants on the volcanic eruption scale. Let's take it to the next level, boys. There's I can't even say this one, but I'm just going to shorten it to the Katla eruption in 934 AD, also a VEI 5, 18 kilometers in the air, the first major eruption since Vikings conquered Iceland in 1946. This greatly frightened the Vikings and shot out 7 kilometers in all directions.
Jesus.
I'm just going to skip on to these insane ones. Krakatoa eruption of 1883, a VEI of 6. Plume height was 25 kilometers in the air. Tephra release, which means like all that volcanic ash and like lava and everything shooting in all directions. 25 kilometers in all directions. Half the volcano exploded under the 200 megaton TNT explosion. Created 40-meter high tsunamis in all directions. Global temperature fell by 3 degrees Celsius. Explosion created the loudest sound ever recorded at 310 decibels.
Whew.
Yeah. That's not even the worst one.
The Earth is just nuts, dude.
Well, and yeah, so I started like, I got this little resource on Kindle where I get books that interest me, and one of them was natural disasters, and I was reading about like tectonic plates and all that shit you learned in like grade 8 science that you like probably should have paid more attention to, but now that you're older, you're like, fuck man, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy.
but just like the volatility of the fucking planet we're on, and like the different layers of the earth, and like what's going on underneath the tectonic plates, and the friction between them and colliding and pulling apart, and like just natural disasters are fascinating but frightening. You got the Tambora eruption of 1815. It's a 7 on the scale. The plume height was only half a kilometer, but it was the deadliest eruption in modern history with 80,000 deaths. The whole volcano exploded. The year 1816 is known as the year without summer because it blackened the sky for a 6-month span.
If I'm afraid if you keep talking about volcanoes, it's going to summon a volcano.
Well, and it comes into the realm of, okay, people are talking about Yellowstone and having a super volcano underneath it, and what would happen if that exploded. Well, now we're going to get into the 4 biggest ones of all time. So the Taupo super eruption in 2600 BC measured an 8 on the 1 out of 10 scale, 70 kilometers into the air, 1,000 kilometers in all directions, the most recent supervolcanic eruption. The third highest was the Yellowstone super eruption 2 million years ago, measuring an 8 on the scale, 100 kilometers into the air, 2,450 kilometers in all directions, the most deadly Yellowstone eruption ever recorded. The Toba super eruption was an 8 on the scale, 120 in the air, 2,800 all around, created a 10-year global winter and a temperature drop all around the Earth of 5 degrees Celsius. And then the La Garetta super eruption 28 million years ago, 150 kilometers in the air, 5,000 kilometers all around. Explosion was 5,000 times more powerful than the Tsar Bomba. Have you guys heard of that thing? The
No.
Tsar Bomba?
No.
So the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs?
Yes.
Okay, so this thing, I think it was like 250 or 2,500 times stronger than both of those combined. And it was in 1960s or so. The Russians developed this hydrogen bomb, and they nicknamed it the Tsar Bomba, and they blew it up in like a Pacific island somewhere. And apparently you could see the light flash from like 500 kilometers away or something. So it was the most powerful bomb ever detonated in the history of humanity. So apparently this volcano 28 million years ago was 5,000 times more powerful than that bomb. And that's the biggest one the Earth's ever seen.
Yeah,
we'll get into the other ones.
It's my giant crap that I had before the podcast, second only to that.
Have you guys watched that Chernobyl show on HBO?
So good.
Must watch. If you haven't checked it out, check it out. It's mind melting how problematic those things are. It can be.
Yes.
Like nuclear reactors or volcanoes?
Both ultimately, but I was talking about nuclear reactors because they're more man-made, but volcanoes are just scary as shit because we got zero control. It's like the same thing as like if we got hit by an asteroid. Like we realistically have no choice or like defense if that thing just decides to go, right?
Dude, there was a friggin' asteroid like a week ago or a couple weeks ago that NASA didn't even see until it passed by us. And it was like, kind of close, not close enough, but yeah, it was really small too. So they were like, "Oh, I would have burned up easily."
I love when they always say that after it passed us, after it didn't hit. They're like, "Yeah, it wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have done anything anyways." It's like, "Are you sure about that?" It's like, "Yeah, we're pretty sure."
So I was telling Joe too, and this blew my fucking mind. It was this. I think it was in Norway or something. It's called Vajont Dam. I think it's in Norway. Anyways, a cool thing about how tsunamis are typically created is an underwater earthquake triggers massive bursts of energy from the Earth's crust that shoots upwards and throws waves from its epicenter at 500 kilometers an hour, but they're only 3 meters high, shooting outwards from that point. And as it nears closer and closer to land, the depth of the ocean rises, like the surface of the ground gets higher and higher, because like the depth of the ocean, like the bottom of the ocean, is a lot deeper than like getting towards like coastal land, right? So as these 3 meter waves traveling 500 kilometers an hour get closer to land and the depth goes up and up and up, it funnels those super fast, super like shallow waves into a very slow, tall wave that turns into a tsunami. And a lot of these most powerful tsunamis in the history of Earth have been from landslides, where there's a basin of water and there's a landslide that happens like on a cliff somewhere, and a giant chunk of mountain falls off the mountain and into like a reservoir of water and creates this giant wave. In this Norway town, there's like a dam that they decided to erect in the middle of a valley up at the top, and it was 250 or 200 meters high, the dam wall, and they were trying to channel the energy into turbines to use for the surrounding area. Well, I guess when they were like filling the reservoir, a landslide happened and a big chunk of rock, over 250 million cubic meters of forest, fell into the dam, washing away villagers and killing 2,000 people, generating a wave of over 250 meters or 820 feet in the air, and careened down this valley.
Shit.
Imagine seeing that coming towards you.
That's insane.
I would shit my pants. Like, there's no escaping that, and that would be the worst
you're
death
dead.
ever.
You're insta dead. The
What
second
happens if
that wave touched you, dead.
What if you just like ran at it and like dove into it, like turn yourself into a really sharp pincer dive and like see if you could, like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
The swirling
I know what
debris.
you mean. I just don't think that that's an option. There's just so much debris. You just dive headfirst into a picket fence.
So, boys, for comparison here, just because it's very good to have context. So that 250 meter high, 820 feet wave, the deadliest tsunami in history, which was in 2004 in the Indian Ocean, that hit Indonesia on 26 December 2004, magnitude 9.2 earthquake, the third largest in recorded history, caused the deadliest tsunami ever, killing 230,000 people. It was 30 meters or 100 feet. This one I'm telling you in that valley, 250 meters, not 30 meters, 820 feet, not 100.
Wow.
Like, imagine that fucking wall. The deadliest one ever was like 10 times smaller.
That's insane.
Yeah.
The volatility of Earth.
It's absolutely bonkers.
It's frightening.
There was one in Lituya Bay, I guess, the one that killed the dinosaurs. Also, it hit a bay that was like 300 meters deep, like the water, and it produced a tsunami that like contributed to the death of the dinosaurs. But they said instead of hitting, I can't remember the bay, like Biscayne Bay for fucking argument's sake. Instead of hitting Biscayne Bay and laying waste to the dinosaurs at 300 meter depth, imagine if that asteroid hit the Atlantic Ocean with a depth of like 13 kilometers down. What kind of wave? They said at the end of this tsunami height comparison that the biggest one ever would be 4,600 meters or 15,000 feet high if the same asteroid that killed the dinosaurs were to crash into the Pacific Ocean.
Can you imagine surfing that thing? Like that?
Dude, 15,000 feet high.
Space.
Bro,
you're literally flying at the height of an airplane.
Okay, just for context, we're gonna move on, but you guys will. It's all about context. Look at that. Mute the thing so you can't hear the audio in the background. But scroll to 319 of 326. So like just about the end, and pause it.
Okay.
It shows you the like in a graphic the height of that metaphorical wave versus that big blue one is the biggest one ever recorded on Earth. And everything underneath it is like stuff that has just murdered people.
So just so people know, this is just a YouTube video called Tsunami Height Comparison, but we'll link it. But this is insane.
Yeah, imagine that coming at you, bro. You ain't surfing nothing.
You're
dying.
A surf from here to Europe.
That would be quite the way to go out, though. I am endlessly fascinated by that stuff because it's like, okay, if you're out on a boat in the middle of the ocean and then, you know, Earth just goes wonky and just throws a friggin' 120-foot wave at you. Like, we were on a cruise ship in the middle of the ocean and it started getting choppy out there. And he's like, oh, yeah, we got some 15-foot waves like battering the boat. And you're like, wow, this is pretty serious. Imagine that fucking 25,000-foot wave just fucking coming at you. Anyways, we'll talk tornadoes and earthquakes and hurricanes on a different one.
Moving on.
I don't know.
It's time for Would You Rather?
I don't know.
All right, so I have some awesome ones to throw your guys' way, but in a nice change of pace, I was wondering, do you guys have any would you rathers that you'd like to throw the way of the gang? Because I always ask them. I feel like I monopolized this opportunity.
Oh,
You probably enjoy it, but
I do enjoy it. I feel like you're so prepared that you just come with the heat every time, and I appreciate that.
block it.
Okay, would you rather get blown up by a volcano or get hit with a giant tsunami?
Volcano. I hate
Okay.
being cold. I feel like I'd be cold in a tsunami.
I feel like
Yeah.
you'd probably take longer to die in a tsunami too. Like if you just get smashed by like a falling 30-ton rock or like disintegrated by some lava.
It's quick and easy. Yeah. I
Yeah,
think the
neither one of them would
volcanoes.
be pleasant, but
Yeah.
Um,
I don't have any. I'm trying to rack my brain here, but I can't. I'll get some for next week.
okay. Would you rather have 3 feet or 3 hands, boys?
Oh,
3 hands, dude. 3 hands.
Yeah, I think 3 hands.
Does that give the stranger a new meaning to you, boys?
That
Perhaps
that. Imagine how fast you'd be with 3 feet, though.
I mean, if you could coordinate them all, yeah, you'd have some propulsion for sure.
Yeah, but hands would definitely be the
Yeah,
play.
but it's 3 feet. Not is it 3 legs or 3 feet?
I would assume if
have-
you have a third foot, you probably have a third leg.
Leg? What if it's just like
yeah,
2
where
feet
the hell
on
you
one
gonna put the other
leg?
foot?
A split foot?
Split
You'd be
foot.
so fucking good at kickball, dude.
Yeah. You probably like
Is it-
climb like trees really well.
This is a big club foot.
Well, imagine Usain Bolt with like 3 feet, and each one of them had a leg. They have like the,
Yeah.
the 3 foot Olympics.
Just a tripod hauling ass down the track.
Would we have to segregate those athletes, or is that another like social dilemma?
I don't think
That's a
it'd be
whole
fair.
If you
other
got 3
conversation.
Yeah, it's a different league. That'd have to be like a tripod league.
That's
For sure.
discriminatory, though. Just because they have 3 feet doesn't mean they're not real people.
No,
You're
that's
not
not what I
wrong.
mean.
I think it is what you mean.
don't be discriminatory, Joe.
No, I was just
Come on,
saying.
Joe.
Oh, don't put me in a box.
Would
Don't put
you
me in a
rather
box,
have?
Don't do this.
Would you rather have all your shirts be 2 sizes too big, or have them all be 1 size too small?
Too big. All
Yeah, I
my
think
shirts. All my shirts too big.
I think mine
2
already
sizes
are.
too big, or 1 size too small.
I like oversized clothing, so I'd have to say big.
Bed sheets over constriction.
Yeah. I mean, I already
Yeah.
had like nicotine and stuff. Like I'm already constricted. I get all loosey goosey.
Fair. Would
Fair
you rather
enough.
only be able to whisper or only be able to shout?
Oh, I'd say only be able to shout. I'm a loud person.
Loud noises.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because I think I'm there too. I would just shout everything.
Wouldn't you be
Portuguese
so much
people.
more like secretive and very like I don't know, like people would like really want to hear what you have to say if you were whispering everything. It'd be like a secret, you know?
It's just a little closer.
Juicy nugs.
Just a little closer.
You'd be that creepy guy that only whispers, though.
Just
For
a
sure.
little closer. Yeah, there's a whole creep factor.
Why don't you come over here for a second?
Yeah.
I don't like that.
Yeah. You're doing really good. Keep it up.
I'd rather be like, hey, get over here.
Okay, would you rather live the rest of your life with silent but uncontrollable gas or loud uncontrollable sneezing?
I'm gonna say I'm confident my answer is gonna be sneezing. Loud.
Really? I would pick the gas because like they never know.
I already kind of have gas and it's not good.
Yeah, but that's more like it affects the people around you more than you. If it's silent, you just...
Yeah, but like sneezes feel good in a way, you know.
I was gonna say I love sneezes, and my sneezes are already pretty loud. Like people comment on my sneezes when I sneeze in public. They're like, "That was loud as shit." So
glorious.
It's basically just what I'm living already.
Achoo!
Well, let me throw a curveball. Yeah, I'm the same way though. I love it.
Yeah, instead of me.
Okay.
Achoo.
If the frequency was you had to sneeze or fart every like 30 seconds, would that change your perspective?
Probably fart. Yeah.
Yeah, I like farts. Yeah.
What about like 5 minutes?
Sneeze.
Sneeze too. Yeah.
A sneeze every 5 minutes would kind of be nice, dude. Except unless you're in a movie theater.
There's this breaking point of like anything over like 2 minutes is reasonable.
I don't think you'd be banned from every movie theater if you had either of those. If you're just like farting all the time, or
no, but they'd never know where the fart came from.
Yeah, and they could never blame you for the fart.
Yeah, just make eye contact and it'd just be awkward, but people wouldn't say anything.
All right, last one. Or actually, I'm gonna throw two at you because we can rapid fire these. Would you rather be able to freeze time or travel in time?
I would like to travel in time. I think that'd be pretty cool. Like, as long as if I didn't mess with anything, like if I could go way in the future, be like, what happens? Is it the rip? Is it the crunch? What's going on? And then go back in time, check out the dinosaurs.
But doesn't that like leave you open to more of that, like, you know, if you fucked with shit in the future or the past, you might
the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I would rather stop time, but I've always wanted to wish I could stop time because like being a hockey player, the amount of times where I'm like, I just wish I could just stop the game right now and just go put the puck in the net and be like, yeah, I did that. So yeah,
or if a train is about to hit you, and you need, like, there's a lot of the reasons why stopping time would be good. Or like somebody shoots a bullet at you.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Stapo.
I'll get out of here.
But what if I was like, but if I could reverse time though, if I got shot, then I could like reverse it and then.
No,
like,
you'd be dead.
Yeah, well, it depends if he shot me in the head, though. Like if I got shot.
Yeah, what if they shot him in the head?
If they shot him in the hip, he's just like El Reverso Timeo. Get me out of here.
That's literally a line. Have you? Oh man, they have Dumb and Dumber 2 on Netflix, and I was so mad because like Dumb and Dumber, the original, is one of like my favorite movies of all time.
That's my favorite comedy.
Dude, so Dumb and Dumber 2, I was like watching the trailer of it, and I kind of had a realization where I was like, they like tried to like Hollywoodize that movie when I feel like if they would have just like paid homage to the original and like kept the type of jokes they had in the original, it would have still been funny. But the second one I hated it.
That didn't even have the original cast in it, did it?
Yeah, well, they did one that wasn't the original cast, but then they did Dumb and Dumber 2 with Jim Carrey and the other guy, and I still didn't like it at all. But that's a hilarious line when Harry's in there and he's like, he's got the vest on. And he's like, what if they shot him in the face? Yeah, what if they shot me in the face? That was a risk we were willing to take.
I love that movie.
That's Joe.
A lot of people don't understand that or care for that movie.
Dude, that movie is one of the greatest of all time when it comes to comedy.
If you like Jim Carrey's brand of comedy,
yeah,
the king.
I honestly think I'm gonna watch that tonight. Honestly,
Jim Carrey and I'm blanking on the other guy's name right now.
Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels, dude, just so they just
Legend.
work so well together.
Bro, you saw the fucking poster I got in my basement.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest posters of all time. You might have to put that out on our Twitter feed or something because that poster is legendary.
It's a pastel like colored one too. It's not like the real clip. It's like it's very artistic for a
Oh, it's
shitting
amazing.
poster.
It looks beautiful, dude. It's so well done.
Hey Jax, mock,
Yeah, buddy. Ing,
bird,
sing,
yeah,
yeah.
mock game.
You want to hear the most annoying sound of all time?
No, not on the
Dude.
podcast. Okay.
Dude,
I think we
so
can end
good.
this here because I had another one, but that's just too perfect of a way to end it. So we'll come back to the insanity another time. I think I'm on trivia, which I am ill prepared for, but I'm going to pull it out of my ass.
It's time for lightning
all right,
round.
dude. We got this.
Lightning round. Lightning round.
You know what? I'm just not that used to winning 2 in a row because I've lost so many since the inception of this.
Wow, I mean that's a pretty humble brag, but it's very true.
That's a
It
humble
is
brag.
true, though. I was
like
waiting
that.
so long to get another win. Like it felt in the start of the podcast, it was like they came relatively easy, and I thought those good times would continue forever, and they dried up.
Sometimes
like a girl
she goes,
in a nerd
you know,
convention.
and sometimes she doesn't go. But either way, that's just the way she goes.
So she goes.
Oh, I just missed. Dallas just scored in the.
Oh, don't! You're speaking my language.
Are you watching the game or do you not?
No,
have
I
one yet?
wish. I got this
Oh.
fucking podcast I got to do.
I know. I got the dual screen. Jamie Benn. So it's 2-1.
Oh, it's 2-1. Shit.
Yeah.
Well, at least they didn't put fucking Ben Bishop in.
Yeah. Fair enough. At least they're trying.
You know what? They've made a fucking habit of just pulling it out at the last minute. So I'm gonna call it right now. Dallas 3-2 overtime going to the finals.
There you have it, folks.
Okay. So what is the world's largest active volcano?
Oh,
Hawaii.
Yellowstone. Oh no, Yellowstone's not active.
So it is the name of the volcano, not the location in which it is.
Oh boy.
Situated.
Mount
Big-
Kilimanjaro.
And I don't know.
I don't know if either one of you can pull this out of your ass. I almost want to give Joe half a point. It is in Hawaii. It's called Mauna Loa.
Yeah, you get a point. I would have never gotten that. Hawaii was a good guess.
Thank you.
How many time zones does China have?
6.
Joe?
3.
Ixnay on both. I'll
Do
give
we
you one more
keep
guess.
guessing, or does it? Okay, one more guess. I'm gonna say 8.
Joe?
2.
All right.
Wow.
I'm going to give you some options here. 1, 4, 7, or 11.
I'm gonna say 11.
4.
I'm sticking to my guns.
You're both wrong. You suck. 1.
There's 1.
11. There's only 24 in total. 11 of them are in China.
China's half the world.
Well, I just kept going higher with my guesses. I'm like, I can't go lower now.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay, how many breaths does the average human take in a day? I'm going to give you some choices here. 21,000, 23,000, 24,500, or 26,000.
23,000.
Jackson?
I'm gonna say 24-5.
Joe's. El Correcto. 23,000.
How'd you know, Joe? When did you count?
Well, and the other thing is, as I was thinking about it when we were off the podcast, and I think we set the standard a long time ago that you can definitely answer the same answer that somebody else did. Just
yeah,
so
no, I think you can.
If you're wondering.
Jackson likes to be different, though.
Yeah, I like to keep
How many-
people guessing.
I'm gonna I'll probably throw 3 more your way because I think Joe's up 2-0, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm gonna give this one to Jackson first. How many bones are in a giraffe's neck? 5, 6, 7, or 11?
How many bones are in a giraffe's neck?
5.
I'm gonna say 7.
Joe?
11.
7 is the answer.
Oh, let's
Jackson!
go. I knew I should have paid
Jackson,
attention in my
Jackson.
zoology class.
Okay. I'm looking through some of these science ones. I'm like, that's way too sciencey. Those guys aren't going to get it. Which element previously used in the production of felt led to the expression "mad as a hatter"? Is it A, plutonium, B, mercury, C, boron, or D, hydrogen?
I'm gonna say boron.
Joe?
Hydrogen.
You are both wrong.
I think it's
So-
mercury, isn't it?
Joe, what would be your second guess?
What was the other option?
Plutonium or mercury?
Mercury.
Jackson answered first. We're gonna give it to Jackson.
Oh shit.
So 2-2. This is for all the marbles, boys. I'm going to I'm gonna ask this. First one to answer gets it. There's no stop and start. Just fucking fire it out there if you know it. And we're gonna answer until the bloody death.
All
Which
right, I like it.
U.S. city has been hit by the most tornadoes?
Alabama. Oh shit.
St. Louis.
Alabama.
Shit.
Las Vegas is south of Michigan.
Close enough. Kansas City.
Nope.
New York.
Get closer though.
Fuck.
Think Midwest.
Yeah, you gotta think like Missouri, Kentucky. Is it in Missouri?
There is a basketball team that resides there.
Dallas?
No.
Kansas
That's too
City.
far south.
Nope.
I already said that.
There's no basketball team in
basketball
Kansas
team.
City.
I don't know.
I don't think Joe knows that. A basketball team in the Midwest, Utah. That's more south.
I'm gonna move on because I don't want you guys to just answer until you're blue in the face. It is Oklahoma City.
I should have got that. Another story for the podcast another day. I drove through a tornado through Missouri last summer, but that's a whole nother episode.
What?
Oh shit, eh?
Yeah, with my dad, it was nuts. Maybe when we have him on, we'll tell the story. But anyway,
Cool.
Sounds fucking terrifying.
it was
Yeah.
the most terrifying experience of my whole life. But anywho, we heard the sirens, dude, as we were driving down the road. The whoo, it was wild.
That's so scary, dude.
That was a pretty
What?
good siren too. Hey,
That was
Sorry, not to
good.
interrupt you.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was spooky.
Sorry.
There are 118 elements on the periodic table. What is the first element on the periodic table?
Hydrogen.
Boom.
Let's go.
Nailed it.
I was right there. Like,
Freaking genius.
Jackson. 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 Woo.
What's weird in the world today? Oh my God.
He didn't just do that.
Oh my god!
Oh my God!
All right, let's toss it to Joe D'Souza.
so
Joven.
there is this is by Luke Matthews. He's an audience writer for mirror.co.uk in a weird news section. And we have a stray dog who keeps visiting car dealership is adopted by staff and given a job. Let me just post this in the thing so you can see this awesome dog. But this dog's been hanging out at a car dealership. I guess a stray dog, and he's been going there so often that they just decided to adopt him and then also give him a job. And apparently, he's the like the fucking
wearing the fucking headset.
All right.
He's the mascot now. He's determined to stay, and it didn't take him long to win the hearts of the staff.
He's a professional consultant.
Wow.
Is he getting bonafets?
That's wow.
I would totally visit them over the competition if that was the case.
Both
There's
of those
no
are
way I'm
such
going
like
Toyota.
those both answers are such like mustache twirling, like you're twirling your mustache saying that. Oh, it's so good.
Look at him, just
man.
looking majestic. He looks proud as fuck.
I know.
You know this is
Wearing a
a
bow
good
tie.
news site when 99% of the page is ads. This website link is legitimately the smallest part of it is article. It's 99% ads.
Juicy.
What? This is good news. I love it.
Jackson.
All right, my what's weird in the world is actually since I won epic debate trivia and I get to have an epic rant, I gotta push my what's weird to something else for later on. But my what's weird is actually more of a shout out to the NHL, and it's September. We're watching Dallas play Vegas in the Western Conference Finals. The Eastern Conference Finals are wrapping up, and we are about to have the Stanley Cup Finals pretty soon. I gotta say, it's a pretty big shout out considering March 11th when the season shut down. It seemed pretty doom and gloom, and I was on the fence post of cancel the year, move on, let's start fresh next year when things kind of sort themselves out. But they were reluctant and they pushed through and they found a way to get things going and finish out the year. And they just announced today for, I think, the 7th or 8th consecutive week, they haven't had any positive COVID tests. So just pretty solid. Job well done from a major sporting league, taking care of everybody's health and putting on a nice show for us to all kind of enjoy and get to watch as hockey fans. So, yeah.
Solid. I like it.
That's it.
I feel like before I get into what I need to say about what's weird in the world today, I was having an argument / polite debate with Joe's father over the weekend, and he was discussing, which he was talking at me. We weren't really having a conversation because he said that if he was the Leafs and he was in the position to make a trade, I said out of the top 3, which one of them are you going to trade away for the supporting pieces? Because we both agreed. He said goaltending was the problem. I said, but he's facing 48 shots a game. He's not the problem. Maybe put some defense in front of him. So what they really need is that number 1 stay-at-home defenseman. And we were talking about it, and I was like, Alex Pietrangelo would be an amazing addition to their lineup because he's that defensive-minded, stay-at-home, anchor kind of guy. And apparently he's talking about a lack of deal with the Blues is a little disappointing. So hopefully they can trade him. But Jackson, you're a fucking hockey guy. He said he would trade away Matthews. I said you trade away Tavares because he's the guy that came in and they're no better with him than they were without him. I know he's the harder contract to trade away, but you don't trade away Connor McDavid if you're Edmonton. You don't trade away Sidney Crosby if you're the Pittsburgh Penguins. You don't trade away Ovechkin if you're the Capitals. Why would you trade away Auston Matthews out of everybody?
No,
he didn't hear that.
I think you move Marner, dude. Marner would be my guy that
but
I get
he's
out
so
of there.
good. So good.
Yeah, but you're too locked into Tavares as your captain. Matthews is your first overall pick. Marner's got like the Ontario boy thing going, but you can get so much for that guy right now. If you,
but isn't he the reason that makes him tick?
Like
he's got that like pass first kind of ice vision that you really want in a player, right? I've seen him play. And I mean,
ideally, you don't want to move any of them. The whole point is for all of them to stay there. I think, in my opinion, Nylander goes and Anderson goes, and Matthews, Tavares, and Marner all stay.
Nylander's the guy.
Yeah, I think Nylander's out. I think Anderson's probably out, which is going to be a mistake when he goes.
He ain't going to get shit for Nylander, though.
No, but That would probably be my opinion. But on another topic, you're gonna be pumped about this, Jake. Guess who
I just
tied
saw
the
they scored.
game? And guess who
Woo!
scored it?
Was it Jamie Benn?
No, man. Game 7
Radulov?
hero.
Was it fucking
Kivi
Kiravanta?
Ranta. Dude, tying the game with 3 minutes
Wow.
left. Holy shit.
Fucking
Hockey.
Buddy is the
plug it into
greatest
my
of all
veins.
time.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
We'll
anyways.
talk. Okay. So what's weird in the world today? Jackson was talking earlier about I don't know, living in the Matrix or whatever the fuck he was talking about with the
Social
what is
dilemma.
it? Social Dilemma. Okay, so I'm totally gonna watch that. But then I was reading some news story about scientists create first living robots in major breakthrough. So this is from the Independent, and long story short, they basically took the cells of like frog embryos, and they kind of ripped the cells apart, and then injected like cyborg robotic kind of cells into the frog cell, and then the frog embryo, although it was destroyed, or they kind of like rebuilt it, I think, with like tweezers and like the petri dish, and then they put it back together. But then they found after they injected it with the new cells and put it back together that if they tried to damage it again, it would repair itself. So they said the major application for this breakthrough would be if you put not vaccines, but like a cure or like some way to heal patients in a hospital. So if they got some internal bacteria or some flesh-eating disease or something, you introduce some of these cells into the body, and they would repair themselves. Or the other thing is you can introduce it into the ocean to clean up the plastic. So I don't know how that works, but it sounds very fucking cool.
I like that ocean cleaning up idea a lot.
How would that work? Frog embryos injected with fucking like cyborg cells. It's gonna clean the ocean.
I'm not 1,000th smart enough to get into this topic. I just think it's cool as shit.
I was thinking like eat all like to eat all the plastic. Like
I would think so, yeah. Was it gonna like bind itself to the plastic and then like absorb it?
And isn't it just gonna shit out plastic?
Yeah, it's just gonna grow as one giant
ball. Yeah, that's what I thought. But we already have that, like the floating island of plastic in the Pacific Ocean.
We fucking shoot it into the sun.
We got to talk about that in another episode. It's like how much plastic there is in the fucking oceans. Shame,
dude. It's nasty, by the way.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
so
such
let's
nasty number.
Let's get into
It's
this.
a Schande nach Rappe, fast, the leg in the
It's time for Epic Rant. Epic Rant.
Alrighty then. So, touched on it a couple times. Jake mentioned he's gonna watch it. Joe, I highly suggest you watch it. It's kind of hard to watch in the sense of it's like you kind of know this, but then to see all the data and information and all that stuff. So Social Dilemma, movie out on Netflix. It's a bunch of executives from like Google, Facebook, Twitter, all these different platforms that don't work there anymore, speaking about the algorithms and the methods used to basically get you addicted to your phone and social media by feeding you with information that they know that you'll consume, because they build cyber versions of your intelligence that they then use to sell to and from to other people. So basically this whole point of the movie is talking about how it's deep, bro. So it's basically talking about how these major companies have become massive marketing companies, right? So they sell data to other companies that are able to then create ads to sell to you and blah, 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 blah. So people believe that the product is the Facebook and the YouTube and the Twitter and the Instagram, when in reality, and what this movie is kind of explaining is anything that you get for free isn't a product, you're the product. And it's a really weird way of looking at it, but basically selling human data and humans' attention has become the biggest business in the world, and these companies make trillions of dollars a year doing it, collecting data and information and all this stuff, and turning around and selling that ad space or different things to major companies, and viewing yourself as a product being used by Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, it really does. I don't think it's going to necessarily change the way that people still use these social apps and all that kind of stuff, and the way that we consume information like we talked about earlier. But it really does make you look at it a different way. It really makes you feel like a bigger pawn in the grand scheme of what's going on than I think we all realize is actually happening. Like I think we like to think that like our Facebook and our Instagram and all that stuff is there's some randomness to it, or there's some personalization, but for the most part we're all seeing something similar. And this movie does a good job of pretty much blowing that concept out of the water and destroying it and showing you what these companies are really doing. And ultimately the Epic grant, I'm in it. I'm not against it completely, because I understand it and that's just the world we're in, but I definitely think it raises the question of whose job is it to maintain an ethical, moral standard. And I think this is kind of like letting the baby play with the fireworks, and then once the hand gets blown off saying, oh shit, we probably shouldn't let them have the fireworks. I think we're going to look back and realize that there should have been a little bit more restriction from the top down and these kind of things. And now we're kind of living through it and suffering and going through the consequences of it. Not saying that I think we should change it, not saying that I think it's a bad thing, just saying that I think it's something that everyone should look into to have the knowledge to move forward with, and a different way of looking at it. So Social Dilemma, very good documentary on Netflix. Check it out and have your own opinion, formulate your own opinion, and let me know what you think. And you guys, we'll talk about it hopefully in the next episode if you guys watch it.
I definitely will.
Yeah, that was
it's
cool.
a little terrifying implications, and I think
it's
the way people's data is used, and I've had conversations with friends about cookies and stuff on websites, or like ads that show up on Facebook half an hour after you talked about them in like a conversation with your friend in person. And there's just some weird shit going on that undoubtedly there's a lot that we don't know. And even if we did know, what would we do about it? And yeah, whose job is it to police this thing? I think we could definitely unpack that on a future episode. And to anyone who says that we're maybe going to run out of content, every time we have a new episode and we just talk, there's like 5 instances. We'll talk about it next time. Or on another one.
So come back for more.
Yes.
If you like what you're hearing,
love
Pep
it.
your ear holes. All right. Any parting words, boys?
No. As always, much love. Stay safe. Keep your head down. Keep working hard.
Yeah. Stay diligent, my friends. Be like water.
Well, I just want to say thanks to Splat Nation for your attention over our first 16 episodes that we've recorded, and appreciate all the support. You guys have been great on all of our social media, just kind of supporting what we're doing here, and we do appreciate you, and we think you're awesome. So keep tuning in, keep interacting, and much love until next time. We also have a little bit of a ad spot for one of our friends' podcasts as well towards the end of it, so tune in for that. Check it out if you like mental health discussion as well. So for Jake, Joe, and Jackson, signing off. See what sticks. Catch you later.
Bye.
Peace.
That's all for tonight, folks. Tune in next week for more tasty podcasting goodness. Send us your thoughts and comments on our social media pages. And be sure to hit that like or follow button. Check us out at our website at www.seewhatsticks.net. And give us suggestions for content you want us to discuss on the show. And any ideas you have for lightning round trivia. What's weird in the world today? And would you rather? Until next time, Splat Nation.
I'm not going to take no for an answer.
Hello, Mind Bloomers. This is Marina G, your host, and welcome to Mind Bloom, the podcast for all things mental health and breast cancer awareness. I've always known that I'm at high risk for breast cancer. I've always lived with this impending doom in my life. In fact, I don't know how it feels to not have the threat of breast cancer looming over you.
And then it just hit me like a ton of bricks.
These people will bravely say that you can choose to feel alive regardless of your cancer diagnosis. They'll say that if you feel you're in the dumps, you can see a therapist.
When that thought would creep up in the silence, the thought would creep up, I hate my life. I was so ashamed of it. I was so ashamed. And so I would just push that thought away.
These are also the people who describe their anxiety symptoms so minutely that I think they're talking about me, and I no longer feel alone in my room. And these are, by the way, the same people who say you should wear your blooming mask and cut the crap already. And I'm so proud to say that these are my people. They're my community. I let them in, and I am now, I feel, a part of this tribe that chooses life and love and joy and oneness with the world. And now I'm inviting you in. So come on in.